Hello and welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Michael Verrill and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development with the Sharp Financial Group. We work with founders and second-generation business owners to help them maximize business value and personal net worth. As their financial advocate, we help them grow and transition their most valuable asset into family wealth and long-term future legacy. Thank you for joining us for our continuing discussion on growth stories, where we hear from entrepreneurs and advisors who share secrets and advice on what business owners need to know to grow. From time to time, financial issues relating to life science, healthcare, and technology matters may be discussed on this show. Those discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the program is pre-recorded and shown at a later date, some of the information discussed may no longer be current. Please always seek advice from your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm joined today by my guest, Rob Kathol. Rob is the founder and managing partner of Navigate. Rob started Navigate in 2005 with a mission of building a consulting firm focused on strengthening the collaboration between executive management, human capital, business operations, and technology. Recognizing a need in the marketplace to develop a different kind of consulting firm focused on providing strategic advice and creative decision solutions for their clients, as well as 100% commitment to client relationship and also enjoyable to work with. Rob's early experiences making important decisions with conviction and a vision and sharing a vision that he had a belief in, as well as a collaborative approach, helped him build a consulting firm that continues to grow in what is a very competitive environment. It is my pleasure to welcome Rob Kathol to Growth Stories. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Mike. Great seeing you. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Thanks for being here. Rob, I'm looking forward to having you share your story and some of your entrepreneurial insight. But before we do that, we have a question from one of our viewers. Can you help me with that?
Super.
Great. Well, Mark Lehman from Malvern would like to know, where do you go to get advice on starting a new business?
I think a couple things. One, a key accountant is helpful in setting that up, as well as legal representation. I think those are strong, but I think the biggest thing is probably having mentors who can kind of help guide you and make sure that you're actually ready to start that business.
Somebody who's been there before and kind of maybe you can help you learn from some of their mistakes without making some of your own.
Yeah, someone who is not afraid to tell you the hard things that you need to know.
Right.
And won't yes you to death. So.
Right. No rose-colored glasses
right.
When you're starting your own business.
That's right. It's getting the plane off the ground takes a lot of fuel, a lot of energy, and you need to know what's in front of you in order to get it off the ground. So having a mentor is a key, along with great accountant and some legal help as well.
Great. Well, you certainly have had that experience, and I want to talk to you about your entrepreneurial spirit and where you developed that. And I'd like to go back into childhood experiences, because I do believe that some of the risk you take as a business owner is developed at a young age. So I know you didn't grow up in the East Coast. You were a Omaha, Nebraska boy, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that background and what it was like growing up in Omaha and some of those experiences.
So just real quick on Omaha, Midwestern, small city, probably the size of Columbus, Ohio. Just a phenomenal place to grow up. My family life was probably similar to yours. My mother and father raised three of us. I had two younger sisters, and it is a very low-key type of city. There's a lot of successful people in Omaha. It's more than just agriculture. It's technology, it's insurance, it's medicine, and of course Berkshire Hathaway is in Omaha. And
sure.
I had the good fortune of caddying for Warren Buffett at
one
time. So, so it's a great place to grow up. I think one of the things that my folks did is encouraged me to be independent very early on in my life, and they challenged me to kind of pave my own road, whatever that meant, right? And so I followed that and took advantage of the opportunities that they provided me.
Great. Well, obviously, independence and being able to kind of go out on your own is an important characteristic of an entrepreneur, right? Because a lot of times you do look behind you and wonder if anybody else is coming along
for the
right?
ride.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned when we talked before was your parents' vocations. I think you said your mom was a teacher and your father was an investment banker. And the interesting thing for me, and you hear a lot about the EQ and the IQ today, and you got a little bit of both from each parent. Can you talk a little bit more about that? The emotional quotient and the intelligence quotient, how do you pull that together?
Yep. My dad's had a tremendous career, very successful in investment banking. He's very analytical. He still understands the human element to investing and working with people. I would say his strength is on the IQ side. Certainly, I hope I got a little bit of that from him. I don't think I'm as smart as he is. He's a really sharp guy. But I think my mom really had a lot of the EQ, and I hope that I was able to garner a lot of that from her. She really understood people at a core level, and all different types of people. And unfortunately she's been gone for about 25 years now, and I think over 1,000 people at her funeral. Wow. People from janitors to U.S. senators and everything in between. And it wasn't about what you accomplished in your life. It was about the type of person you were, and really understanding that at that core level that I talked about. And I feel like that's something that she passed on to me. At least I hope she did. So.
Right. Well, that's great. Well, being successful in the consulting business, I think there's a lot of empathy that goes into that, really, to put yourself in your client's shoes. So I'm sure you did get some of that to develop the successful firm that you have today.
Absolutely. Funny, empathy is one of our core values of our firm. And those core values in many respects emulate what her core values were. So that's why it's very personal to me. And we take those core values seriously. I think one of the things that we all recognize when we have the opportunity to help clients is that they are making themselves vulnerable to us.
Sure.
Right? They're saying, hey, listen, I have an opportunity, I have a challenge, and I need help.
Right.
And we hold tight to that, right? And putting ourselves in their shoes, as you say, is our way of being shoulder to shoulder with them and embracing that vulnerability.
Right,
so
right.
That's been a key part of our success, no doubt.
Yeah, you can't threaten that confidence, right? You need to make them feel comfortable with you and that they are appearing vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's
it's huge. I mean, think about, when a friend comes to you and says, hey, I got a big challenge ahead of me, whether it's personal, professional, whatever it is, how you handle that conversation, and first of all, the trust in them to actually even say something to you, it's very similar in consulting. Maybe it's a professional environment, but at the end of the day, it's their career, right? It's their team's careers as a function of operating in that company.
Right. Interesting. One of the things I mentioned in the opening paragraph introducing you was your conviction in making important decisions. Something you shared with me was interesting in the thought process you went through. I think you were only in 7th grade at the time, but you had to make a very monumental decision probably at the time that probably influenced or changed or definitely impacted the path of your life, your career, whatever, your education. But you made a decision about schooling early on. Tell us a little bit about that and how you came to that decision and some of the struggles you went through to kind of come to that realization of the path you wanted to take.
Sure. My parents were committed to education, committed to all of their children's education, and I did fairly well in grade school. And I had they basically said, "Listen, you can go wherever you want." There was a boarding school, and in the Midwest, people don't really go to boarding schools much.
Right.
Maybe out here on the East Coast, but there not so much. And I made a visit out there. It was about 45 minutes away from our home, and it was a 5-day boarding school. So you'd come home on the weekends, and it was I don't know. I knew it was the right place for me, and back to that independence and that confidence that they instilled in me, it gave me the wherewithal to make that decision on my own, and that was my decision. They weren't pushing anything,
Right.
And so that wasn't a real popular decision.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the boys from my class went to either the public school, high school, or they went to another school, another private school in Omaha, and I lost a lot of my friends. And now you look back on it and you're like, okay, it was 7th grade, it really didn't mean that much.
Right.
But when you're in 7th grade, it means everything
Sure.
to you, right? So, I literally lost all of my friends, and when my mother was very good at listening and understanding, as I kind of alluded to before, and I said, listen, I'm struggling with, I want to care about what people think about me,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to care about what people think about me. And she said, listen, you make great decisions, you're confident in those decisions. For the people that care about you and that are good people, you better understand how they feel about you.
Right.
For the people that maybe aren't that significant and maybe really aren't that great at people, she said something else, but I'll say, forget it, right? And so forget them. And, for me, that was, I've said this to a number of people, that was the seminal moment in my life, because she really propelled me to say, you know what, you got to stand on your own, make your own decisions, and be confident in those decisions, because, you're a good person. You need to stay that way. Don't change, right? So that was a big thing for me in that high school. It's a big part of my life. I still contribute every month to that school.
Right,
So
right.
it means it kind of set me on a path, no doubt.
That's fantastic. And
Yeah.
then that also gave you the confidence in your secondary education to make another big decision. You came to the East Coast, right, to go to college, and I'm sure that being able to go that far away was a big part of already having made such a, as you put it out, seminal decision, that you'd already have that confidence to make it once. Why not make it again?
Sure. So went to Boston College, phenomenal experience, great school. Very blessed to have been able to go there, and that was part of, I guess, my life on the East Coast, which has been the majority of my life now.
Right. Yeah,
Since
it's
I'm
funny
so
how
old.
that works, right?
Yep.
So that's great. So you can really start to see some of the characteristics, as I said, the early experiences that I think you probably draw on when you're making important entrepreneurial decisions today. I think you probably think back to that.
Oh, I absolutely. I'm a play the tape out kind of guy and a connect the dots back kind of guy, and I really see where, and it really was my parents. I have to say, I was very lucky to have been raised by two incredibly dynamic people.
Right.
And so I guess anything that I am probably starts and ends with them.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
in giving me those tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? That a lot of people, you can take those for granted if you really don't, again, kind of look back and really say, hey, how did this happen for me?
Sure. Sad your mother can't be here today to see it, but I'm sure she's looking down.
She's
knows.
fine.
She's very aware. That's great.
She's doing
That's
great. I'm sure.
So, you go, I think you said you had a finance degree and you had some minor degrees at Boston College. You're going to go out. I mean, do you see yourself immediately like, hey, I'm going to go out and start my own business. I'm going to be an entrepreneur right out of the gate?
Definitely did not.
Okay.
I wanted to be in an entrepreneurial environment, but I definitely didn't think about starting my own company. I think I was probably predestined to be in the investment banking business.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always been hanging around my dad's office, and I'm fairly analytical myself, so I thought that might be the way I wanted to go. But when I really looked into my heart, I realized that I wanted to do something different. My first opportunity, I didn't really work out very well. When I got an offer, the company was actually bought by a bigger company, and they put a hiring freeze on. So
okay.
all of a sudden, I'm out of school,
start-stop,
start-stop, without a job. And of course, all the other offers I had turned down were unfortunately, or fortunately, not there anymore.
Right.
And so I went to work for a bank, Norwest Banks, which actually purchased Wells Fargo, kept the Wells name.
Okay.
You know, not my favorite experience, but certainly had a lot of life lessons out of that.
Right.
Especially as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right.
And as a commercial banker, you're working with entrepreneurs, right? I mean, that credit facility can be the lifeblood of the working capital of that company.
That's right. That's right. And you know, I met tremendous people who had a lot of courage, were very intelligent, risk takers, and you know, I think the life lessons that I got is stay focused on what you're good at, right? Don't try and go too far out of your lane, and never take on too much debt. So, as a banker, you can appreciate that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but I always wanted to be on the other side of the table. Right? I wanted to be, once I saw that, I wanted to be them.
Right. Be in that decision process rather
right.
than just a component of it.
That's right.
Yeah. So that really fueled kind of your desire to say, hey, I could go out on my own. So how do you make that transition? You get a job as a banker, right? Your traditional path there, but you have this entrepreneurial burning. How do you one day say, you know what? I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to take a bunch of risk on, and
Sure.
you know, how do you go through that process?
So I moved out to Philadelphia. I had some friends that lived in the area, and we had contemplated starting a business. We knew some folks in the procurement group at AT&T.
Okay.
And from there, we started a company selling hardware and software. That's how it began, to AT&T, and quite an experience. Definitely took a flyer. As I always say, I was too stupid to know not to start my own business, but
sometimes that's the best time. Maybe we give that advice to Mark.
Yeah, right. There you go, Mark. So that was a lot of fun. I was 24 years old. It was an incredible experience. You know, one of the things that you learn, and we hired people fairly quickly because we grew fairly quickly, is, you know, making payroll and what making payroll really means. Right? It's a commitment. It's not just about having enough money in the bank to clear. It is about the commitment to make sure that there's money.
Now you got other people involved, other people's livelihoods,
and their
families,
and their livelihood. And so it's a huge responsibility.
I think sometimes when, you know, lots of people you talk to want to start their own business, be their own boss, right? I mean, that's one thing if you're a solo entrepreneur, right, with a consulting business on your own or something like that. But as soon as you start hiring people and have that responsibility, that's a whole nother level. I don't know if people ever, you know, everybody always thinks to that detail when they're getting into it. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten into it if you started thinking of that detail.
That didn't bother me. I embrace that.
Yeah,
it means a lot to me.
Right. Tell me about, you shared with me some of the kind of fly by the seat of your pants early on starting out. I mean, that, you know, I'm sure every entrepreneur listening remembers the days when, you know, before you're making payroll, just trying to get paid, right?
Well, AT&T paid on, we convinced them to pay cash on receipt or check on receipt.
Uh-huh.
And we had very short terms with a distributor that thankfully took a flyer on us,
Uh-huh.
right? Because you're 24 years old, you don't have
Right.
any money, and,
Right.
not a lot of credit experience, and we were able to make it work. We would pick up the computers and deliver them up to AT&T the same day, sitting on the Jersey Turnpike in the little rest areas there and cutting off their tags, putting on ours. And we would do anything for the client
Uh-huh.
in delivery.
Right.
I need this tomorrow. Absolutely. We would jump through hoops to make that happen for them. And then we got pulled more into services. Hey, can you configure these
Right.
computers?
Right.
Can you fix them? Can you do networking, right? Which at the time was big. And so that they really pulled us and evolved us into being what I would call an IT services provider or consulting firm.
Okay.
That's ultimately what we became, working on projects, staffing people. And so the company grew fairly large. We had a nice services business and still did a lot in the sales business as well.
You shared a story with me just to demonstrate your commitment to customer service of meeting an exec at 4:30 in the morning as he was getting ready to leave his house to board a flight to Europe or something like that, right?
We got a call from his assistant about 6 p.m., Bob's computer, Bob Allen, who was the CEO at AT&T at the time. He is leaving, and his flight leaves at like 5:30 from Teterboro, and can you have a new laptop for him?
Right.
And so we found it from someone local. We configured it, got it up, and I drove up, met him at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning, and man, I mean, he was just emphatic. I mean, he was like, "I can't believe this."
Customer for life, right?
Well, that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
It's total commitment,
right,
to your client. So.
When you don't have big brand recognition,
that's
in the
right. That's how you develop
man,
the brand.
That's your brand.
That's right.
That's great. That's great. So that business continued to grow, and you were still operating that business through the .com bubble.
Yep.
Seems so far ago now. We've been through other financial turmoil, but the big thing at the time in the early 2000s was the .com bubble.
Sure.
You managed the company and still managed to come out on the other side. Talk about some of that experience. I mean, because the entrepreneurs out there, right? I mean, it's not all roses, right? The economy is not always going to be growing up.
That's right.
If you want a long-term business that's going to last, you have to figure out how to manage in the downturn too. Talk a little bit about that, some of the experiences you might have learned from that.
That was a tough time for us. It wasn't just the .coms that scaled back. Right. One of our largest clients at the time was American Standard. You can't get more brick and mortar than American Standard, right? And they pulled back significantly. And so we were able to weather that storm, come out the other side, and we got more strategic. We worked on more projects, larger projects that were, I would call business projects that were enabled by technology. Mm-hmm. And as we started to get into that, I realized I wanted to do something a little different. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be involved more on the strategy and the people and process side, not just technology. And so we had built an incredible team and fairly technology oriented. And my partner, who's wonderful, wanted to go in more of a technology road. Mm-hmm. I wanted to probably go more on the management consulting side.
Okay.
So our team was really based in technology, and I felt that was a good opportunity for me to, sell my ownership mm-hmm. and take some time off and start Navigate in late 05. Right. So
that's another entrepreneurial moment, right? You've done well, and you got to risk it all again and start something new. You have a good core in what you see, and I think you said you had some clients that came with you maybe to kind of give you a little runway to start. But that's an interesting process. I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that. I mean, at some point, you got to pivot away from what you're doing if you see opportunities to do something else. And it sounds like that's kind of...
Yeah, it's really what I wanted to do, and I loved the first company. I really did. It's just, this is what I feel I was driven, and I guess it's what I was meant to do.
Right.
So.
Right. Talk a little bit about Navigate today. You're, it's 12 years now, right?
Yeah.
12 wow. Years, yeah. I'm going to
Okay.
say that out loud.
Yeah,
it sounds even longer, right?
Yeah. So we've got a phenomenal team. We have 5 partners, a phenomenal leadership team of, a CFO, principal. We have a, director of people who's really driving a new people strategy for us as we try and achieve our vision, which is kind of to be the go-to dominant regional player in that, North Jersey down to DC, and with Philly is clearly our hub, right?
Great.
And so that vision has been shared with the entire team. They play a part in that. We have 70 people in all,
wow.
and growing.
That's great.
We're just hiring. I think we just put a few more offers out. But the team is incredible. I think that they have, we've set up a culture that is very different. There's not a tremendous amount of travel. When you think of management consulting, you think of, okay, I've got 9 months, Sunday to Thursday.
Right.
And, certainly we travel, right, for our clients. But it's not the 9 months to Denver. And, our clients are large corporations, many of which Comcast, AmerisourceBergen, Johnson & Johnson,
right,
big household names. But our work is primarily around this area,
in the local market,
right? And that's meaningful for people, that we bring on that are probably a little more seasoned,
right?
So they're, we're not right or wrong. We're not hiring out of college.
Sure.
We're typically hiring people with, say a minimum of 5 years experience,
right. This has been great, Rob. There's obviously so much more of a story to tell, and I would hope that maybe at some point we can have you back for a future episode to continue to share this, because it sounds like the road to Navigate is unlimited at this point. A lot more runway.
We're bullish. Thank you very much for having us. It's a great opportunity to tell the story, and thanks so much. I appreciate it, Mike.
The next guest will be Dominic Liberi, How to Sell Your Business. Dominic's with Obermeyer, Raymond, Maxwell, and Hipple. As a reminder, you can download the podcast from iTunes and Stitcher, as well as see programs on your YouTube channel and our website, money-matterstv.com. Thank you for spending time with us today.